Welcome to Dreamy Detections. Thank you for choosing this quiet corner as your sanctuary for rest and gentle contentment. The story you are about to hear is designed to help you unwind, to let the day's thoughts soften and drift away, and to guide you toward a peaceful sleep. If you find comfort in our tale, a simple like, a subscription to the channel, or a kind comment is always deeply appreciated. Tonight, we will be visiting the serene village of Oakhaven and finding a spot of quiet comfort in its beautiful town square. Prepare to be enchanted by the dappled sunlight under a great oak tree, the scent of old, well-loved books, and the gentle puzzle of a single wooden bench that always seems to know exactly what story you need to hear. Let this world provide a soft place for your mind to land, a moment of stillness and respite, just for you. Chapter 1. The Sun-Warmed Oak Bench. The village of Oakhaven welcomed Nora Meadowlight not with fanfare, but with a profound and gentle hush. The air itself seemed softer here, carrying the sweet fragrance of damp earth and newly cut grass. As she walked along the main lane, the sounds of her footsteps were absorbed by the quiet atmosphere, leaving only a sense of peaceful movement. Nora drew in a long, slow breath, feeling the tight coil of weariness in her chest begin to unwind. She had come seeking stillness, a place where time was measured by the shifting patterns of sunlight on a garden wall, and Oakhaven already felt like a promise fulfilled. The lane opened into a beautiful town square, a perfect circle of lush green lawn. It was not a formal, manicured space, but a comfortable, well-loved heart for the village. At its very center stood a magnificent oak tree, so ancient and vast that its branches spread like a protective canopy over nearly the entire green. Its leaves, 1,000 shades of green, rustled in the slight breeze, creating a sound like a soft, continuous sigh. The sight was so deeply peaceful that Nora felt her own breathing slow to match the rhythm of the leaves. Beneath this sprawling canopy sat a single wooden bench. It was made of the same dark, sturdy oak as the tree, and its surface was weathered to a silvery gray, worn smooth by countless seasons and visitors. It looked less like a piece of furniture and more like a natural part of the landscape, a place of rest that had grown from the ground itself. Something about its quiet solitude drew Nora forward. As she approached, she saw that she would not be the only one sitting there. Resting in the very center of the bench was a book. It was a beautiful volume, bound in soft, dark green leather, with simple gold lettering on the spine. It seemed to be waiting, its presence calm and unassuming. Nora sat down on the bench, the wood warm from the dappled sunlight filtering through the leaves. The warmth was comforting, a gentle heat that seemed to seep into her bones. She reached out and touched the book's cover. The leather was soft and supple, and the book felt perfectly balanced in her hands. It was a collection of poems about gardens, forests, and quiet moments in nature. She opened it to a random page and began to read. The words were simple and beautiful, painting pictures of sunlight on moss and the slow unfurling of a fern. As she read, the world around her seemed to both sharpen and soften. She became aware of the intricate patterns of light and shadow dancing on the page, of the faint, pleasant scent of old paper and ink, and of the gentle weight of the book resting in her lap. The village, with its quiet comings and goings, faded into a peaceful backdrop for the world held within the book's pages. Nora sat for what felt like a long time, though the town clock chimed only once, its soft melodic tone marking the passing of a single peaceful hour. She felt the last of her own internal noise quiet down, replaced by the calm, steady voice of the poet. This was the stillness she had been searching for, a quietude so deep and complete that it felt like coming home. The bench, the tree, and the book all felt interconnected, a trinity of tranquility offered freely to any who sought it. When she finally closed the book, she felt a sense of gentle restoration, a feeling of having been nourished by the simple act of sitting and reading in a beautiful place. The book felt like a gift, a perfect and unexpected welcome to Oakhaven. She looked at its cover again, wondering who might have left it here. There was no note, no inscription, just the quiet offering of the book itself. It felt like a kindness, an anonymous gesture of shared comfort. She placed the book back in the center of the bench, exactly where she had found it, a silent thank you to whoever its previous guardian had been. As she stood up and walked away, she looked back at the sun-dappled bench under the great oak. It looked so peaceful, waiting patiently for its next visitor. Nora smiled, a soft, genuine smile that reached her eyes. She had a feeling she would be back tomorrow. Here, in the heart of Oakhaven, she had found more than just a place to rest. She had found a sanctuary. Chapter 2. A chapter of quiet observation. The sun-warmed oak bench became the gentle anchor of Nora's days. Each morning, after a simple breakfast, she would take a slow walk to the town square, her heart filled with a quiet, pleasant anticipation. And each morning, the bench would be waiting, a new story resting on its silvery smooth surface. The book of poetry was gone, and in its place one day was a slim novel about a lighthouse keeper, its cover the color of a soft sea mist. The next, it was a charming collection of illustrated folk tales, its pages filled with whimsical drawings of friendly woodland creatures. Nora never took the books with her. They felt like they belonged to the bench, offerings to be enjoyed in that specific place of peace, and then left for the next person. She would read for an hour or two, completely absorbed, feeling the gentle rhythm of the village life flow around her. The distant sound of a hammer from the blacksmith, the soft laughter of children playing by the fountain, the melodic chime of the town clock. These sounds were not interruptions. They were the gentle soundtrack to her reading, weaving the village into the very fabric of the stories she held. One particularly warm afternoon, Nora decided to sit on the grass near the bench instead of on it, leaning her back against the sturdy trunk of the great oak. From this vantage point, she could watch the bench with a quiet, unobtrusive curiosity. She wanted to see the gentle magic extend to someone else. She did not have to wait long. A young man in dusty work clothes, his face smudged with dirt and his shoulders slumped with fatigue, ambled into the square. He was the village gardener, a fact she knew from the small, cheerful nursery on the edge of town. He sank onto the bench with a heavy sigh. For a moment, he simply sat, eyes closed, letting the peace of the square wash over him. Then his eyes opened and fell upon the book resting beside him. It was a thick, well-loved volume with a simple, practical cover. He picked it up, his brow furrowed in gentle curiosity. Nora could see the title from where she sat, A Guide to Oakhaven's Wildflowers. The young gardener's face transformed. The lines of weariness softened, replaced by a look of pure, simple delight. He opened the book, his dirt-stained fingers surprisingly delicate as they traced the illustrations on the page. A soft, grateful smile touched his lips. Nora felt her own heart fill with a quiet joy. Seeing his simple, profound contentment was even more rewarding than finding her own perfect book. The bench was not just for her. It was a source of comfort for the entire community. It was a place of gentle serendipity, a quiet conspiracy of kindness. She watched for a while longer as the gardener read, his posture becoming more relaxed, his whole being seeming to absorb the peace of the bench and its story. Here, a story finds its reader, she thought to herself, the phrase feeling perfectly, wonderfully true. Later in the week, she saw an elderly woman with kind, crinkled eyes sit on the bench and discover a book of classic recipes, which she paged through with a look of warm nostalgia. Another time, a teenager who had been staring blankly at the sky picked up a book of fantastic adventures and was soon lost in its world, a look of wonder on their face. Each discovery was a small, silent miracle, a perfect match between a reader and a story. The puzzle of who was leaving the books became a secondary curiosity for Nora, less important than the simple, beautiful fact that it was happening. Her observations were a form of meditation. She was not prying or investigating. She was simply bearing witness to small moments of happiness. She watched the way the sun made the oak leaves glow from within, the way a small bluebird would occasionally land on the back of the bench, and the way each person who sat there seemed to leave a little of their weariness behind. The bench was more than wood. It was a repository of quiet moments, a library of peaceful afternoons, and a testament to the gentle, unspoken connections that held the village of Oakhaven together. This chapter of quiet observation brought Nora a deeper peace than she had ever known. She felt connected to these people she had never spoken to, united by the shared, simple pleasure of a story found at just the right moment. The need to understand how the magic worked was dissolving, replaced by a profound gratitude that it simply did. The warmth of the sun, the rustle of the leaves, and the smiles of strangers on the book bench were all she needed. Chapter 3. The Scent of Old Paper and Kindness. Drawn by her love for the stories on the bench, Nora sought out the source of Oakhaven's books, a small shop tucked away on a side lane called the Gilded Page. A little bell above the door announced her entry with a soft, melodic jingle. The air inside was a bibliophile's dream, a rich, comforting blend of old paper, leather binding, and the warm, earthy scent of freshly brewed tea. The shop was small but felt boundless, with shelves stretching from floor to ceiling, crammed with books of every shape and size. It was a cozy, wonderful labyrinth of literature. Behind a large wooden counter stood a man who seemed as much a part of the shop as the books themselves. He was elderly, with a kind face etched with the fine lines of a life spent smiling, and a shock of white hair that seemed to float like a friendly cloud above his head. He wore a soft woolen cardigan and spectacles perched on the end of his nose. This, Nora knew instinctively, was Mr. Alastair Abernathy. He looked up from the large ledger he was writing in and gave her a smile that was warm and instantly welcoming. "Good afternoon," he said, his voice gentle and resonant, like the turning of a thick, heavy page. "Welcome to the Gilded Page. Is there anything in particular you're looking for? Or are you just letting a story find you?" The phrase was so close to her own thoughts about the bench that Nora felt a jolt of pleasant surprise. "I think I am just letting a story find me," she replied, her own voice softer than usual in the quiet reverence of the shop. She spent a lovely hour browsing the shelves, running her fingers over the textured spines, pulling out a volume here and there to admire its illustrations or read a few sentences. Mr. Abernathy left her to her peaceful exploration, but she could feel his quiet, benevolent presence. It was a comfortable feeling, like being watched over by a kindly guardian of stories. Eventually, she found her way back to the counter, a slim volume of local history in her hand. Mr. Abernathy had a copper kettle on a small hot plate, and it began to emit a soft two-note hum, a peaceful sound like a contented sigh. "Ah, tea is ready," he said. "Would you care for a cup?" Nora gladly accepted, and soon they were seated in two comfortable armchairs near the front window, mugs of fragrant chamomile tea warming their hands. "You are new to Oakhaven, I believe," Mr. Abernathy observed gently. Nora nodded, explaining that she was a restorer of old books and had come seeking a quieter way of life. His eyes lit up with a deep, genuine interest. They spoke for a long time, their conversation flowing as easily as the tea he poured. They talked about the feel of different kinds of paper, the beauty of a well-made binding, and the particular joy of finding the perfect book at the perfect time. "A book is a quiet companion," Mr. Abernathy mused, looking out the window towards the town square. "And sometimes a person just needs the right companion for a quiet afternoon. It can make all the difference." Nora felt a deep sense of connection to this gentleman. His spirit, so full of warmth and a profound understanding of the comfort of stories, felt like the very same spirit she encountered at the bench each day. The bookshop was a haven, a concentrated version of the peace that radiated throughout Oakhaven. The kindness in Mr. Abernathy's eyes seemed to hold the answer to her gentle puzzle, though she felt no need to ask the question directly. The understanding was there, unspoken, in the shared appreciation for a simple, beautiful truth. She left the shop feeling wonderfully calm, the volume of local history tucked under her arm and the warmth of the tea still lingering. The conversation with Mr. Abernathy had been like reading a favorite chapter of a beloved book. As she walked back towards the square, she looked at the great oak tree and the peaceful bench beneath it with new eyes. The source of its magic was not some strange enchantment, but something much more real and far more beautiful, the quiet, steady kindness of a human heart. Chapter 4. How a Story Finds Its Reader. A fine, soft mist shrouded Oakhaven in the early hours of Nora's last morning in the village. It was not a gloomy mist, but a pearly, ethereal one that softened the edges of the world and made everything feel quiet and dreamlike. Nora had decided to stay, having found a small cottage to rent. But this morning felt like the gentle closing of one chapter and the beginning of another. She rose before the sun, drawn by a desire to see the village in this hushed, magical light. She pulled on a warm sweater and stepped out into the cool, silent air. Her feet led her, as they always did, toward the town square. The grass was heavy with dew, each blade sparkling with a tiny droplet of mist. The great oak tree was a majestic silhouette, its branches disappearing into the soft gray above. The bench sat beneath it, empty and waiting. The air was perfectly still, the only sound the distant, sleepy coo of a waking dove. It was a moment of perfect, unspoiled tranquility, and Nora felt a profound sense of gratitude to be a part of it. She found a spot at the edge of the square, partially concealed by a large lilac bush, and simply stood, watching the world slowly wake up. As the mist began to glow with the first hint of sunrise, a figure emerged from a lane on the far side of the square. It was Mr. Abernathy, a canvas satchel over his shoulder, on his way to open his bookshop for the day. He walked with his usual slow, deliberate pace, his presence a comforting and familiar part of the Oakhaven landscape. He did not walk directly to his shop, however. His path curved toward the center of the square, toward the great oak and the empty bench. He paused when he reached it, setting his satchel down on the damp grass. He looked around the quiet square, a soft, serene expression on his face. Then he reached into his bag and pulled out a small, cloth-bound book with a cheerful, sunny yellow cover. Nora watched, her heart beating with a gentle, happy rhythm. Mr. Abernathy ran a hand over the book's cover, a gesture full of care and affection. He then placed it carefully in the very center of the bench, positioning it so it would be the first thing a visitor would see. He stepped back, admired his work for a moment, and a small, contented smile graced his lips. He picked up his satchel, gave the bench one last fond look, and continued on his way, his form soon swallowed by the mist. Nora remained where she was, a corresponding smile on her own face. There it was, the gentle, simple, beautiful answer. The bench's magic was the quiet, observant kindness of a good man who knew his neighbors and knew the healing power of a story. He was the anonymous guardian, the gentle curator of comfort for his community. The puzzle was solved, not through clever deduction, but through quiet patience and a moment of shared, unspoken grace. The resolution was as soft and as gentle as the morning mist around her. She felt a wave of warmth spread through her, a feeling of being completely and utterly at home. This was the community she had been looking for, a place built on small, unseen acts of generosity. She knew she would not mention what she had seen to Mr. Abernathy. The beauty of his gesture was in its quiet humility. It was a secret she was now privileged to share, a silent participant in the conspiracy of kindness. As the sun finally broke through the mist, its rays illuminating the little yellow book on the bench, making it glow like a beacon of warmth, Nora felt a lasting, profound peace settle in her soul. She had come to Oakhaven looking for quiet, and she had found it. She had also found something more, a community that understood that the best way to care for one another was sometimes as simple as leaving the right book in the right place at just the right time. Here, a story finds its reader, she thought, and here I have found my story.